Welcome everyone to today's Black Sisters Birth Academy's Inside Birth podcast. And I'm your host, Midwife Christina Jermaine. And the purpose of this podcast is to provide an intentional platform and community for the aspiring Black midwife who wants to navigate her path in becoming a community midwife. On our interviews, we are aimed to provide practical tools and knowledge for the aspiring Black midwife who wants an inside look on the ins and outs of becoming a community midwife based on what Black community midwives have experienced, okay? Because there's a big difference, and it's so important for us to get our message out about the experiences we have. We also want to spotlight and promote community midwives that are making massive impacts in their communities, as well as foster ideas on how you too can become a woman of impact in birth work in the process. All right. So now today we have a very special guest today that we have with us, and her name is Aiyana Davison. I'm going to read her bio. So Aiyana Davison, her, is a certified nurse midwife and a women's health nurse practitioner currently practicing in Southern California. While Aiyana has worked for the last 9 years at a large teaching hospital, she recently started her own home birth practice, the Village House Inc. Aiyana has been featured on a wide variety of platforms, including Essence, Parents, Peanuts, Elvie, Ovia Health, and Mama Glow. Hopefully I didn't jack it up for anybody out there. Her work focuses on healing through sharing and storytelling, supporting the Black community as they traverse healthcare, especially during the prenatal and postpartum period, and educating those interested in midwifery. You can follow Aiyana on her social media platforms and websites under the name The Vagina Chronicles and Village Wellness. So with that said, everyone, can you please do me a great, huge favor and put your hands together and welcome Miss Aiyana Davison. Yay! All right. I grew up in the church, so it's like give a hand clap of praise and like let's raise the roof for Miss Davis. So with that said, Aiyana, welcome to Inside Birth Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Christina.
Absolutely. It's truly a pleasure and an honor. And when I called up Aiyana, she was like, yeah. So I'm like so happy to have her with us today. So with that started, we'll jump right into today's interview. So I'm going to be asking like a series of questions in this during this podcast. And so feel free to give your most authentic answer, because that's what people are really looking for, to truly connect to what called you to do this work or what's calling you to even show up today, right? So the first question I have is, what called you into midwifery?
Wow. What a heavy question. So I like to think that midwifery called me and pulled me in. I was Fun fact, Christine and I went to undergrad together,
Yeah.
and when we circled back later in life, we were both doing midwifery, which is wild. But in undergrad, I had all the intentions and plans to become a physician, and that was where my mind was set, and really my attention it was focused on becoming an OBGYN. And as like things transpired, I realized like that was not the work that I was thinking in my mind, like what it translated to. And I had experience, sitting in my first year of medical school, well, via a post-bac program. And I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And so the tables turned, things kind of shifted, and nursing came up. And so through becoming a registered nurse, I realized I could also become a nurse midwife and still help people at the most pivotal time. I was like the kid who wasn't afraid of birth videos in class. Um, so it didn't bother me. I just thought it was pretty cool. I was like, oh my gosh, look, the baby is coming, and my classmates are grossed out. Um, Probably the only one left in the room.
Yeah.
But that's where that stemmed from. And then as life progressed and I learned more about my family, I learned about um, a cousin who was a midwife. I knew that to begin with, but my grandmother also was a midwife, which I didn't find out until she passed away. So I really feel like midwifery called me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
awesome. So I just
yeah.
wanted to dip a little bit into like, okay, what was that true aha moment in that class? You said that, like, what really was like the red, like the, I guess you would say the alarm that would go off in your head, like, oh no, this ain't it. What like really was it?
Oh, to tell me like this was not what I wanted to.
Yeah, like that moment where you're like, nah, I need to pivot. Like this ain't it.
Doors close and like I don't think we're honest about that sometimes. I mean, we'll say it, but like I don't think people really like get into like what it looks like for doors to close.
Mm,
I usually am I won't say straight A, but I am a good student
yeah.
getting good grades. And when I went into that post-baccalaureate program, it was like no matter how hard I studied, no
Mm,
matter what I was doing, how many times I met with a teacher, and then to be honest, completely transparent, the school that I went to for this program, we asked for tutors, we asked for support because other students within our course were getting the help that they needed and we were denied that. And
wow.
so, I mean, in that moment, it doesn't feel like a door is closing. It feels like you're being shut. Well, I guess that is a door closing. It feels like you're not worth it.
Mm,
Like you're not worth that effort, because you're not necessarily a medical student. You're kind of in this like gray zone. Um,
mm,
and in that period, I really had to like reflect, like, is this the work that you really want to do?
right.
And we didn't actually have like a clinical portion to our program, and I think that's where I lost some of the sight, or the clinical portions that were there were trying to teach you like how to speak to patients, and I really wanted to spend time with people. And I mean, we could get into the nitty-gritty of that, but like as a physician, sometimes you don't have that much time.
Yeah.
Even as a midwife in a
Yeah.
very, very busy practice or not so busy practice, you don't have the time. But like one of the key components of midwifery care, on most levels, is that they're able to establish rapport and then also um, spend the time that they need to, for the most part, with their patients. For the most part.
Yeah, yeah. And it's honest. I'm glad you gave that honest depiction because I think that even being a midwife, sometimes people think that, we just have all this time. I could just chit chat and just catch up all the time. And it's not necessarily a realistic scenario. That's what goes on in midwifery care. So, okay, great. Well, number two, the second question I have was what route was like a three-part question in one. That's me. So, what route did you take to become a midwife, as you did talk about already? And why did you choose that route? And if you could change one thing about that route, what would it be? All right.
Yeah. So I did a lot of research, in terms of maybe not enough, but I thought I had kind of dove into the depths of like how can I really achieve the goal of being at someone's most pivotal time in life, which one of the most pivotal times in life, which is having a baby. And so my research led me to midwifery. And because I was in nursing school, like nurse midwifery was what was popping up for me at this time. We did not have Chat GPT at the time.
Mhm.
This was like you got to go on a mini hunt for the information that you're looking for. And so really nurse midwifery is what came up for me. I wish and yeah, I wish that I had spent maybe a little bit more time diving into the world of midwifery because I only understood like the role of certified nurse midwife. I didn't really get a lot of information on like a CPM, certified professional or LM. That wasn't a part of like what I found. And they're very different tracks. So it was really during my deep dive that nurse midwifery came to me. And it really was that the moment that clicked for me, knowing that I could go on this path was like my year was ending with that post-bac program. And I was like, what am I going to do? I didn't think I was going to go to medical school. I was like, this is not what I wanted it in my heart to be. And it just wasn't like what I expected. And so I went down a long list of things. Like I
Mhm.
knew I wanted to be in healthcare, but I knew above all else, I wanted to be with people as they were creating families, and in their reproductive journeys. And so Um, I think I forgot your question,
Oh
but
no, you're good. You're doing good. I was like,
hope I
okay,
answered it.
the reason why you chose that route, and if you
Yeah.
could change one thing about that route,
Yeah.
what would it be? Like the
Well,
route that you did take.
one of the things that I would change as well, I do appreciate the experiences that I had, was more of an emphasis on um the diversity within midwifery as well, and the historical context of that. Let me be more specific. So, I didn't learn about midwives of the Deep South, and I was angry after. Like, I was very mad after school because I was like, nobody taught me this, but my expectation probably shouldn't have been so high for that,
Yeah, I know.
especially going that route. Nobody told me about the role of midwives in other countries and how pivotal it is, and how other countries, underdeveloped countries, do better at birth than we do and reproductive care because they start with midwifery. So those are things I kind of felt like I missed out on. Also, the holistic side, it depends on the program you go to. Depends on who you surround yourself with, who's in your clinical rotation, or who's your preceptor for you to learn about certain things. But like the holistic side of care in terms of herbs, let me be
Yeah.
specific about that. That is something too that I wish I had a little bit more of,
Mhm.
but have kind of come, I won't say full circle, but I've come around towards that in the work that I've done. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hear your heart. Trust me, I hear there's so much to like midwifery care because it's like,
Mhm.
I tell people it's the oldest profession, like if you want to say like in the Bible or even
Yeah,
like known to man. And it's kind of interesting how that is not like amplified on an everyday basis. Some countries it is, from what I
yeah,
heard talk to another person, like that's just the norm. Like, and
yeah.
for us in the US, it's almost like foreign, like we're on another planet. And it just seems so weird that
I know.
you,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the next question I have is, what was your experience once you became a midwife and started your practice?
My practice, or how when
Oh,
I
well,
started
for
midwifery.
you, yeah, well, for
Mhm.
you, how was it when you started your midwifery in general, right? And then
Yeah.
now pivoting, as you said, you did start your practice. Like, how was that now once you started?
Both have had their set of challenges, both have had their victories, and moments of joy. There's been moments of sadness. Starting off, my first year, so I had this conversation the other day with someone, and it hits different every time someone else says it back to you.
Mm-hmm.
A childhood friend asked me, like, they were like, "What do you do again?" I can't remember. This is us reconnecting over time. And I was explaining that I'm a midwife, and then they asked, like, well, how many babies have you like attended their births? And I was like, I try to tally my number as much as I can throughout the
Mm-hmm.
year, but I'm not up to date on the end of last year, but
Yeah.
I know I'm over 1,500 births,
Mm-hmm.
1,500 births. And they were like shocked. They were like, "You've touched a thousand, over 1,000 babies." And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Yeah." And so I'm getting to the question. I won't forget it.
You're good.
Um, and so, the person was like, that means you could have touched future presidents. You could have touched somebody who's harmful in the world. There are so many different lives that you could have touched. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. But my first year was full of births. I worked at a very busy hospital, teaching hospital practice, and 6 and 7 births a day was the norm, like hopping from room to room.
Yeah.
A girl was tired, their nervous system was jacked up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what would happen was, because you're new in this role, and of course, I had practiced as a registered nurse before this. So, as a labor nurse for some time, and then in postpartum, worked on a different floor in the hospital. But going from a registered nurse to a provider is a huge shift. Going
Mm-hmm.
from anything to a provider is a
Yeah.
huge shift.
Yeah.
And so the adjustment was really hard for me because my tendency is to take care of other people before I take care of myself. Like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure you're good,
Mm-hmm.
but as we know, that does not serve us. And
Yeah.
so I was doing a lot of work, bending over backwards to make sure people were happy, my colleagues, my patients, um, and I was left last. And so like I would come home and I would just like wouldn't eat all day because we're triaging patients in the hospital left and right. And or on a clinic day, I'm seeing 20 upwards of 20 patients in a day. And that may not seem large because I know there are some other practices that see more than that in a day. But like we're seeing, that's a good amount of people to try to establish rapport, get
Yeah.
all the details, take care of, make sure you don't miss anything. And so like me at that the Aiyana at that time was definitely overextending herself. And so it was a rough journey. And I remember asking a midwife friend, I was like, so when does this get not easier but better? And she laughed at me and I was like, but I'm so serious. So serious. What? We're not joking here. So
Yeah.
that first year was first couple of years were really rough.
Mhm.
And also experiencing a really poor outcome in the first 2 years
Mhm.
that I think it shaped me in a lot of ways, but it's a devastating blow.
Mhm.
And if you don't already have the tools to take care of yourself to begin with, you are setting yourself up for failure when you're
Mhm.
walking in this role. So for the hospital, it was hard, but it's sink or swim. And I was like, I'm not sinking, so
Yep. 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 Yep.
yeah. So yeah, that was a hospital experience. I don't know if you want me to share about the home birth. That's a little
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure, because it's a part of your experience. So, like, how was it now from transitioning from? Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. Like,
yeah.
what made you now decide to pivot and transition from out of hospital to now get starting your home birth practice?
Yeah. So the goal going into midwifery school, the goal to become a midwife was to open up a birth center.
Mhm.
In nursing school, it's close to me, but I'm not gonna, I'll leave it over there. In nursing school, I literally drew out a plan of a birth center, never stepped foot in one. Just it came to me and I started listing out on the back of the paper who I wanted to be, their therapist, nutrition. And at the time, because I was in school and there's many different
Mhm.
specialties, the friends that I hung out with, I'm gonna call this
Yeah.
person to come and do this,
Mhm.
and yeah, so like that was always a goal before I even ever became a midwife. So I had said to myself when I started working in the hospital, you're gonna give yourself 5 years to get vested,
Mhm.
and then you're gonna break away. And the 5 year mark was just before or right about around 2020.
Mhm.
And so it was kind of like, of course, the whole world is changing before our very
Mhm.
eyes, but it was like a reminder for me, like, here's the fire because you're getting
Yeah.
comfortable. And
Yeah.
so I was able to reach out to some local midwives, get some insight and some long midwives who are not even in the state, like
Mhm.
who were
Mhm.
so generous to me and kind and provided like mentorship and provided like, hey, here's how I did some things. It may not be your route, but like these are a few things that you can do to like kind of break out of the hospital. And so like I attended some birth center births. I attended some home births. I made sure I got my supplies down. I got the list. There is one midwife in the community here locally who has just been like a godsend. And like I would ask for stuff and without hesitation. And like I just want to pass that on. Like I'm getting chills about it now because it's so impactful for me. And I'll just name her. Her name's Alicia Hubble.
Nice.
And she just like took the time, like so gracious and generous to me. Wasn't asking for money, and in return, like, if she needs something now or then, I'm like, yeah, like let's see if we can
Yeah.
collaborate on this. But
Mhm.
it wasn't like a drop everything. I still have my foot in the door in the hospital,
Yeah.
but like right now, the home birth practice is what I'm focusing on. And right this year is really the year for me to push more for the birth center. So
Mhm.
I'll be starting those efforts. I can talk for a bit, so you can cut me off.
Oh no, you're good. I'm a talker too, but that's good. This is good information because you're saying that my heartstring was, to always to start a birth center. It was never actually to stay in the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because that was my story. I was like, I want us to open a birth center. And then this is like 16-year-old who wasn't even in midwifery school yet. I'm like, And then once I started like school, I was just like, okay, this is some work, maybe I might just do home birth, But as I see the need for the community, my heart still is like it's a necessity for us to actually have a birth center. So it's like like you said, sink or swim. You're like, well, we're gonna be swimming, and so yeah. So I definitely resonate with your story and how you even decided to pivot from hospital to starting your own practice.
Yeah.
So the next question would be, would you honestly recommend someone becoming a midwife?
Mm. I feel like that's an onion. It's
Oh,
multi
girl, that's why I asked it.
it's multi-layered. That's like a good piece of cake.
Yes, honey.
We got the so I love that you're doing this. Let me just like lift you up as well. Like I
Oh,
love that you're having these conversations because I find that like a lot of seasoned midwives or even newer ones are having conversations on the side about how ridiculous
mhm, mhm, mhm.
midwifery can be sometimes and
Yeah.
also how amazing, but what you're forward facing seeing for most people is the joys of midwifery. We're
Yeah.
not seeing the heartaches. We're not seeing the birth center. You're hearing about the birth centers closing now,
Mhm.
but you're not seeing like what got there, what got
What
them there.
led them there? Yeah.
What
Mhm.
led them to that point. And um, so I appreciate you asking this question. So I think it's important for people to understand what midwifery means. And when I say that, number one, the umbrella term for midwifery. So like, we have these different routes you can go:
Mhm.
certified nurse midwife, certified professional, licensed midwife, traditional,
Yeah.
like
True.
understanding what that means. Understanding like what your world looks like, that's really important too. So like, do you have financial stability, and what does that mean? um and what type of even before that point, but like what type of midwifery you're looking to practice, like who are you trying to reach,
Yeah.
who are you
Yeah.
trying to reach and what are you trying to do?
Mhm.
So like, if you're wanting to like have a home birth practice, um and it's so, again, it's very layered. If you're wanting to have a home birth practice, like, do you need to start with a certified nurse midwife? What does
Mhm.
your state say about
Yeah.
legislation? Like,
Yeah.
so many things to consider. And I can't answer that question for someone if they were like, do you think I should do it?
Yeah.
I'm going to support you if that's something that you desire to
Yeah.
do, but also I want to have a real conversation with you, like, because also some of the students I talk to now, they're like, I think I actually, even though I'm on this CPM track or LM track, I want to go to nursing school now because I need something to fall back on if this
Mhm.
doesn't work out.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
or some of the midwives in practice now are unhappy in the hospital, and it's like, well, what else do I do? Where else can I go?
Right.
Um, but it's also important to remember you can make midwifery work for you as well. Like, people don't, our scope isn't limited either. And I think that's another piece to it that to consider. Like, maybe you do want to do abortion care, like in a clinic. Maybe
Mhm.
you just want to see people and test them for certain things, treat them. Maybe you
Yeah.
just want to do contraceptive counsel. Maybe you want to have an academy where you teach people how to be birth
Hello.
assistants.
Hello. You just get it where you can fit in. And I think it's so beautiful. And so I love your question because at the end of the day, honestly, when people ask me the same thing too, it's like, that's really up to you. Like, what does your soul tell you what to do? And
Yeah.
that's how you make the decision. I mean, people can only give you a pastor a long time ago when I was younger. He said, don't confuse me with facts. My mind is already made up. So honestly, your mind is already made up. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what
Yeah.
kind of facts I'm giving you. If
Yeah.
that's where your soul is carrying you, then honor your soul and go
Right.
there and do it, whatever
Yeah.
it takes.
For
So yeah,
sure. For sure. Honor
yeah,
your soul. If someone can get the opportunity to shadow a midwife, also
yeah.
that's very hard as well. We say that, but like,
I know.
how
I
many
tell people
midwives
that.
in the community are like, I'll take you on, because they're already, some of them are training students, some of
Yeah,
them have clients who are like, no, and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
their right,
That's a
you
real
know.
thing. Hmm.
So it's just if you can sit down and talk to a midwife who might be doing something remotely close to what you're looking for, that's a
Hmm.
really good opportunity. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you even mentioned it because even like knowing that it's like they say, it's your world, we're just living in it, meaning like there's so many facets of midwifery care that you can tap into, and you're not limited to any one of them. It's your life. You do what you're called to do, right? So I think it's awesome. And I'm glad that you also mentioned how, even shadowing midwives. And I tell that even to I run an academy here that trains how people how to be midwives assistants. And so I tell them that, like, don't take it personal when a midwife doesn't want to necessarily, or not that she doesn't want to, she may not have the capacity to be your preceptor because they have a lot on their plate. You know what I mean? And I also tell them, like, let's be honest, it's not like you're some kind of paid student client relationship. So they're like, oh my God, I got to remember Rebecca. Like, no. So you may not necessarily be top of thought, but it doesn't mean that you cannot have an opportunity with them. So it's like you also state your claim. Like, if this is something you really want to do, show your diligence, show you're serious. A lot of people don't do that. And so I wouldn't take you serious either. So I tell people, like, let's be real and know that, and honor people's time and presence. And if they do give you the opportunity to be with them, then show up and show out and do what you're called to do. Right. So, so great, great, great. So I have one more question before I start a speed round called the one, right? It's going to be a lightning round of questions with the word one in it. And you have 1 minute to answer. So before we start that segment, I wanted to ask you, what would you tell your 5-year-old self about
Oh,
following your dreams?
oh, baby Aiyana at 5.
Yeah.
Cute. What would I tell my 5-year-old self? Like, you can be whatever it is that you want to be. I know that sounds real cliche, but like you can actually be who you want to be. Don't be afraid to like show who you are in your work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, show up as yourself. And I think that's what's worked for me for so long. I don't do any advertising for my business. Like the
Mm-hmm.
clients who come to me because they found me.
Yeah.
And I know the moment that I do, I better be ready because I'm
Yeah.
sure more people will be at the door. But like show up as your most genuine self. Um, continue to be kind to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could tell my 5-year-old self something, it's, you know, at 5, what do
Yeah.
you're still ready to learn, but like think about your daily routine and how you can have a moment with Aiyana.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could tell a 5-year-old that. How can you have a moment with yourself, you know, and listen to what your body and your brain is telling you? Listen to
Mm-hmm.
that. You know, I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of children are, they're pushed away like, oh, you're just a kid, you don't know.
Yeah.
But kids feel things, they know things, they see
Mm-hmm.
things, they understand, and they are not always the best communicators. Like sometimes it is a physical reaction because, we're working on this emotional intelligence, but
Mm-hmm.
like they understand and they know. And so I tell myself like trust your gut.
Yeah.
It's not gonna lead you astray. It's really
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my nephew, when he was little, he's like, Auntie, I'm a genius. I'm like, baby, yes, you are.
Okay.
So
You
keep
know
going with it. Huh?
you know it.
Yeah, like yes, you are. You a genius. So I resonate with that statement or sentiment. So like I said, right now I'm going to start a quick lightning round called the one, where I ask a question with the word one in it, and you have 1 minute to answer it. All right. So are you ready? Are you ready?
I think so.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. So the first question I have is, what is one sorry if you can hear me properly. So, what is one common misconception that you have encountered that people have said to you about midwives or midwifery?
A common misconception, I would say, are you ready? Am I ready?
Yeah, you're right. Are you ready?
Okay. Common misconception is that a midwife is a doula. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, that we do the same thing, and it's not true. Doulas are fantastic, but the roles are different. We are providers. Like, we literally are healthcare providers. People are always shocked when I tell them like I can place an IUD, I can remove one, I can test you for STDs and treat them.
Mm-hmm.
We can provide some, limited amount of abortion care. Like people are always like shocked at this. And so, one thing is that a midwife is not a doula, even though doulas are fantastic at their work. We are healthcare providers. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The second question: what is one tip you have learned as about entrepreneurship? So, what's one tip you've learned about entrepreneurship?
One?
Yeah, one, just one. I know. Just one. Like one that's like pow. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Let me think about it. One thing about entrepreneurship. Um,
Yeah,
there's
that
so
you've
many
learned.
ways to do it. Yeah, there's so many ways to do it.
Yeah.
There's no one tried and true way.
Hmm.
You will mess up, you will fail, you will also be successful and have great days. But like there's no one roadmap to what you're
Hmm.
doing.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
you learn a lot along the way. That
Yeah.
might be a few different things.
Yeah. She like that too? Oh yeah. It's all good. It's good. It's good. So what is one tip you have learned about self-care as a midwife?
Ooh. Again, start your self-care rituals, routines, behaviors, practices early.
Mhm.
Like, no more wait till I am a midwife to figure this out. We need to be talking to high school students about this who have a little bit of competency. And I think this younger generation has maybe a better handle on it than we do. But
Mhm.
start your routines early, and that means like movement, that means nourishment, that means mental breaks, that means physical breaks. Start that early. Don't just go the whole day without eating or drinking water because someone's telling you to jump and you're asking how high. You're
Mhm.
still a human as you go through your practice, and as a student. And so please like take care of yourself first before you do anything else.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. So, what is one tip you have learned about relationships since becoming a midwife? And it means relationship in general, not necessarily like romantic. It just what is
Yeah.
what, yeah.
I think the one beautiful one is that like clients can become family.
Yeah.
I have some pretty dope like clients who have become like there's one that I text every single day. We be in here joking and laughing, and I'd be like, "Where's my baby at?" And
I
then
know, right?
back to us, like and so like clients can become family. It doesn't always happen, but
Mhm.
like it's so amazing that it can happen. And so I enjoy, connecting with people, establishing that relationship with them and watching it flourish,
Yeah.
the first time you meet somebody in their home or like on a consult, you never know how that's going to end up in the end, and you guys go through a journey together.
Yeah.
So it's
Absolutely.
like it brings you together, and so I mean sometimes it might push you apart too, but like a lot of times I'm like, wow, this one, she my homie.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's like the
Yes.
one, right? It happens. It
Hmm.
happens.
Hmm.
So, what is one revolutionary act that you can say that you would love to see our people do to move us further in having healthier birth outcomes? Like, what is one revolutionary act that we can do as a people that you would love to see us do?
In the US, make midwives the first point of contact for a pregnancy. What
Mm-hmm.
other countries are doing it, have done it, been doing it year after year after year, decades. Midwifery care needs to be the start of prenatal care.
Yeah,
Like, and the outcomes, the research doesn't lie. The outcomes change,
yeah,
when you have midwifery care at the forefront. This is not to say, anyone is better than anyone else, but the type and level of care and what we're offering is quite different from like
yes,
a physician's care. And we need that too, right? So
yeah,
like if I know my client is becoming high risk, I want to be able to reach out to somebody to say like, hey,
yeah,
let's tackle this together, or like, listen, this is totally out of my scope, so I'm gonna like refer this person to you. But like let's start at where we know and have seen change happen, which is having midwives as the primary providers um when people are going through their pregnancy
mhm,
journey. We
yeah,
start there. Look
yeah,
at the numbers don't lie. These
yeah.
underdeveloped countries are doing much better than us at birth.
So it's pretty developed, if you ask me, right? They
Okay.
know how to develop
Yeah.
some things and have that natural act occur for
Mhm.
them to have excellent outcomes and our bodies work for the most
Yeah,
part, I would say,
yeah.
which hence speaks to the outcomes. What they said, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So, I mean, hello,
Right.
hello, hello.
Hello.
Anywho,
Hello.
I know, right? So, next question I have is, what is one word you would like to leave with our listeners that carried you through your hardest times in life? Like, if you had one word that was like carried me through.
Hmm. I think it was, I'll say this. Sisterhood has definitely saved me time after time after time. I didn't realize till like, I don't know, several years ago that some people just don't have connection
Hmm.
and bonds and people that they can call on for support. This is like where the village house stems from. We need community, we need village. And so I want to encourage people to create and craft and build their community. And that sounds easy coming out of the mouth, and I know it can be difficult to really facilitate relationships, but like at the end of the day, to be honest, in this midwifery work, knowing that I can call Christine in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
call
Oh,
me,
oh,
um, uh, go through a group chat and be like, hey, is anybody awake?
mhm.
This is what's going on. Can anybody have suggestions? And then knowing even outside of the midwifery world, when I'm facing challenges in my profession and in my personal life, that I can call on people to really be there and also be there for them.
Mhm.
Um, that has really shaped who I am as a person and also just helped me in this walk. It really has. So find your community. If you like anime, go find your anime people.
Mhm.
If you want to be a midwife,
Yeah,
actually,
fine.
honestly, like it's so funny now. I feel like everywhere I go, like a birth story pops up, or a story about sex, or a story
Hmm.
about something related to reproduction. Like
Hmm.
it follows you where you go, and then you begin to, create more relationships. Like that's
Yeah.
just what happens. So
That's the vibration you're on. That's the
yeah,
frequency. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I said. If you want to be on the wave, you got to get on it.
get
So,
on it.
yeah, absolutely. So, the last one would be name one way our listeners can help support you further your cause in this work. Like, is
Yeah.
there any? Yeah, tell us.
Ooh, Village House is going to be fundraising soon this year. I mean, we've already started part of that. So if you would like to donate to a birth center,
Yeah.
and even outside of myself, I'll say this too, because like again, community is important. Um, support your local midwife. Find
Hmm.
out who they are.
Hmm.
Um, bring them a meal because they
Yeah,
probably haven't etten for the day.
that would be nice, right? Thank
Or
you.
if you see them, ask them if they've had water. Some of them are really good about it, and others are not. But support your local midwife. So, as it pertains to myself, please keep an eye and an ear out for via the Vagina Chronicles or the Village House Wellness. I'll be sharing updates as we go along. I do have a pregnancy prep course on my website. So people, if you've not been pregnant before ever, or if you had an experience in your life, what just happened?
Mhm.
This might be for you. I can share that information with you, Christine, if you'd like. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
all the information, whatever Aiyana shares with me, I will be adding it to the post so that you guys can read it for any of the descriptions for the podcast. So you can have access to how to support her in the Village House Wellness, right? Village House Wellness.
The Village House is the
Village
business
House.
thing, but Village
Okay.
House Wellness is the Instagram thing.
Instagram. Okay, yeah. So all the platforms that how you can support
Yeah.
all the causes that she has and all any services that she may be able to render to your service, to help assist the community, it will all be listed there. So yeah. So anything else though that you wanted to, or any other organizations that you wanted to spotlight at the moment for yourself or for others?
Yeah. We
Yeah,
have a local birth worker collective, again, community that
yeah.
I really love and usually partner with for events, educational series. It's called Sankofa Birth Workers Collective of the Inland Empire, or Sankofa.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I would say for folks to like look up their local birth worker communities, or local midwives, to find ways to support them. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So this was excellent, excellent. So that is a wrap for today's podcast we have here at Inside Birth. So I just wanted to thank once again Aiyana for her love, her support, and for being my very, very special guest here with us today on this episode. I just want to thank you once again for and give you a hand clap and thank you for like being a part of this because this information that you're sharing is so vital to know that you can have idea and you could pivot or you could follow the idea you always had and know that that pathway may lead you to different terrains and it's all good and you just continue to navigate it. And so I'm just inspired by the fact that you still to continue to show up to do this work in whatever form or fashion because I know that's how it goes. And so just keep it on. And so I just really thank you for being a part of today's podcast and sharing the work that you're doing and have done to lead you to this point. So with that said, you can catch us at Inside Birth on Spotify and YouTube the second Tuesday of every month at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our next episode with another community midwife. And if you enjoy the educational videos, or actually, I mean, educational content, excuse me, that we provide here at Inside Birth, then feel free to give us a like, share, a follow, press the notification button to be informed when the next episode arrives. And as I say here at Black Sisters Birth Academy, remember that birth is what we do. Until next time, everyone, have a blessed rest of your day and goodbye.